We made it. We made it to another week. Another week. Still
Barely.
don't have it. Still don't have my air conditioning, but I made it.
So you barely made it. Definitely for real.
Barely made it. We're
I was
getting
joking,
it tomorrow though.
Oh, good.
Thankfully. What? I'm sorry. Do you hear that noise?
Maybe it's this.
What is it?
Is it fixed?
No, I hear Stacey Abrams talking about Democrats right now. What is going on?
I definitely don't hear that. Thank goodness. We got to fix this. We can't have a show with you listening to
Stacey Abrams.
No.
I don't want to hear how she really won the election.
Definitely not.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where this is coming from. All right, I'm just going to close everything. Okay. I'm going to have to start over now. We're doing this on purpose to make sure that people join.
There you go.
And yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, and Jared Moore, who is supposed to be on the show.
Hopefully he's okay.
Hopefully he's okay. Oh, here he is.
Here he is.
Just seen him in the nick of time.
Perfect. That was providential that we had a slight delay.
That was providential.
Listening to Democrats do their thing.
Here he is, Jared Moore. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Can y'all hear me okay?
We can. Disclosure, we are live. We had to start or we got kicked off Facebook.
Yeah, that's my fault, guys.
No worries at all.
It definitely is your fault.
You know, the funny thing about that little comment is he said that he was going to be the nice one today.
I am.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to be a nice guy today.
Hey, Jared, thank you for joining us and ruining your career and being ostracized from any future with Big Eva whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think I have a shot. I mean, anyways, but this will probably
for one thing, you're white, so you definitely don't have a shot.
This will probably sully y'all's reputation more than mine.
Those are the guests that we like to have on, quite honestly. So, hey, Jared, would you like to share with our guests who you are and give a little background?
Sure. I am Jared Moore. I pastor Cumberland Homesteads Baptist Church in Crossville, Tennessee, and I've been here almost 5 years. I've been in pastoral ministry for 20 years, since I was 19 years of age, and I have a PhD from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. I was raised.
We won't hold that against you.
I was raised Church of God of Prophecy, and started attending a Southern Baptist church with a buddy when I was probably 15. Came to know Christ when I was 17, and actually started a ministry when I was 19. I was raised in the church my whole life, but never had a saving understanding of the gospel. Never repented and trusted in Christ alone for salvation until I was 17. And I've written a few books, and ministry is difficult right now. It's always, ministry is always difficult, but COVID's been strange. And
I bet.
Yeah, main thing is perseverance, right?
Yeah, I think so, and just being faithful. So, are you guys open? Is your church open?
Yes. Yeah, we've been open for. I think we shut down for a couple months, and we're doing online stuff. But we've come back to 3 services ever since May, I believe.
Oh, good. That saves one awkward conversation we have to have on Reformgelical with you.
That's right.
The next one is: are you related to Russell Moore in any way? I just realized that there could be a connection there.
No,
okay.
No,
Whew.
I'm not related.
Another awkward conversation we don't have to have. I'm just kidding.
Oh, man.
So you've been a pastor since 19 years old. What is it like to be in ministry as a pastor at 19 years old? That's got to be tough in its own right.
Well, pastoral ministry. So I was a youth
pastoral
pastor
ministry. I'm sorry.
for 6 years. Yeah. So
that counts. I think that counts. Does that count to you, AD?
Yeah. I had no business.
Yeah.
I had no business being
Barely.
in youth ministry. I had no business being in ministry when I was as early as I was. Looking back, and probably about halfway through that, probably about 20, I was mature enough, or 21, But before then, I got in ministry before I needed to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that.
Yeah, yeah. People are gracious, and the church is pretty enthusiastic about young folks that are wanting to preach. But folks kind of handed me a Bible and said, "Go preach," and that's what I did.
But you did read it, right? You've read it once or twice before you were preaching.
Yeah, I did. I'd read it through a few times.
That's good.
I knew
And
enough
also,
to be dangerous,
And you also have a podcast. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the podcast is Pop Culture Coram Deo, and basically we engage movies, ask 5 questions of them. What's the story? What's the common grace? The things God's image bearers creating art, and what is something praiseworthy? All truth is God's truth type thing. But then also recognizing that because these are sinners making this art, that they're idols. Even Christians sometimes put idols in there. Like old VeggieTales TV shows, right? The no gospel whatsoever. Just moralism. And
careful, AD's a big fan of VeggieTales in the author.
I bet.
I've never seen an entire episode all the way through. Put it that way.
Oh, man, you're missing out.
The only thing I remember from that is like a song about cheeseburgers.
Yeah, that's a great song. The Hairbrush song is really good too. But we we point out the idols, and then we argue that basically what they're really longing for, what they say the idol can provide, that only Christ can. And so we try to magnify the gospel, and then that's what we do in our book as well.
So what is that book, and where can people find it?
Yeah, it's the Pop Culture Parent. You can find it on Amazon, or you can find it on our publisher's website, which is New Growth Press. And it's basically for parents, but it's also for youth leaders and children's ministry leaders. We're trying to train folks to engage pop culture with their children for the sake of discipling them. And we're in a pop culture world. Even politics is a form of pop culture now. You watch CNN, Fox News, you think of the big time news shows, and they're pop culture-y. There's it's not just news. It's not why people are tuning in. It's personalities. So can
you give us a good definition of what pop culture is, and because I think there's a few different definitions that people think of. I think.
Yeah, pop culture. We would just say that culture that's popular.
Okay. So it's not like
Britney
Spears music, but it's more than just whatever's popular on the top billboards.
Yeah, it's basically anything that's popular. Popular movies, TV shows, music, books. We encourage, since it's all around us and it shapes the worldviews of anyone who participates in it. And so it's shaping our children's neighbors, their classmates. So it's an opportunity for us to train them to be ambassadors for Christ. It's not just drinking deep. You don't drink deep of pop culture. Instead, because it's grace mixed with idolatry. And you want to help your children. And the thing about pop culture is a lot of ideas are tried in pop culture before they are made into law, or they are, go mainstream, so to speak. And it's an opportunity for us to train our children, not only the world they live in now, but the world that that our world is becoming. It's kind of a picture of the future in many ways. Not always, but the ideologies are present there.
Yeah. So what would you give as advice to parents that are thinking through, like, how do you use pop culture and train your children to be disciples of the Lord, grow in the Lord, and things like that, and not be consumed by pop culture? Like, what are some tips or pointers that you can give?
Well, first you gotta know your child's heart. You need to be aware of their potential idols. All children are different, and so there are going to be children that can handle things that other kids can't. Now we're not talking about overt sin like sexuality, we would encourage parents to steer clear of that and to steer their children clear of it. But things like there are certain things like violence. One of my co-authors was raised, he was strictly homeschooled, and the only pop culture he had access to that his parents permitted him to have was all Christian pop culture. And he started naming off some stories when he was a kid, like of there was a cartoon that was a Bible story, but it had Moses, and evidently the man that he killed haunted his dreams, and it used to terrify him because he'd show up in the dream and terrify Moses. But anyway, a child watching that, it scared him. And so the first thing I would encourage parents to do is to be able to discern their child's hearts. You got to spend time with them, have conversations with them. If they don't want to watch a particular popular culture that you want them to watch, you need to ask them why and figure out. They may not need to see what your conscience permits you to see concerning various violence, or so there's potential danger there. And so it's more than just kind of counting cuss words. We're talking about worldviews. We're talking about again, VeggieTales was more dangerous than a lot of PG-13 movies because it taught this moralistic, Pharisaical way of salvation. And even though it didn't have any cuss words, it taught the Bible as kind of a self-help book.
Interesting.
And, yeah. So anyway, so to not be consumed by it, the best thing is for parents to participate in it with them. So that they can and play games with their younger children. You can play games with it, like spot the. I think I call it in the book, spot the hooey.
Spot the what? What is hooey?
The hooey, like the sin or the contrary worldview, unbiblical things. How you can spot those things and play those games. And so the kids are kind of worldview training. They're looking and participating in popular culture, and they're looking for not only that, but they're looking for the common grace, things that are praiseworthy. But then they're also trying to spot the idol. Like I was watching Shazam with my 11-year-old, and actually my whole family. But my 11-year-old spoke up and said, "I don't understand why Billy is better than the other guy." Because if you know the story of Shazam, Billy Baston is Shazam, and the spoiler alert. He
Can you have a spoiler for a movie that came out like 30 years ago?
Let me just say this. I have no idea what anyone is talking about here. I don't know what Shazam is. I'm the worst at this. I have nothing to say about pop culture. I don't know anything about it except for Star Wars. That's it.
And AD was not even homeschooled, so I don't even know what his excuse is, really.
No, not at all. And I just don't get it. So continue with Shazam. But if you see me like looking into space, like what in the world, like I just don't even, doesn't even ring a bell.
You're missing out. Anyway, Billy he's not any more moral than the bad guy is. He just sins differently. And, and so, but he's supposedly the one who is worthy. Like he's the most worthy human being on earth. And yet in that movie, he actually attends a strip club. It doesn't show anything, but that he's in a so-called gentleman's club. And you're just like, it points out the blatant hypocrisy that's in that movie. And, it's kind of
moralism without the foundation of the Bible whatsoever.
Right.
How could you ruin a beautiful piece of art like Shazam like this?
You just knew it was going to be a great movie from the title. I mean, you see your Shazam. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a work of art. Definitely. I love.
What do you watch, ID? What do you
Star Wars. That's all he watches. Star Wars.
I don't watch
he watches his chickens grow and Star Wars
videos. No, I barely watch anything. I'm watching The Office every now and then with my wife on Netflix. And like this is what's like 20 years late.
Oh, you're watching it the first time.
For the first time, yeah.
I love The Office.
Yeah, I'm like on my eighth time going through the rotation of.
Yeah, I don't watch with the kids though.
Yeah, it's wise. I love. The first time I really heard about kind of using pop culture as a training mechanism like this is good old fearless leader, depending on who's listening, Doug Wilson, and he made the point of watching things with them, not shield them from it where they're not aware, but going through it and having the mind to see how are they indoctrinating you, how are they discipling you, what are they really trying to teach you. And he would talk about even like pausing the show to really discuss things like, okay, they just like, what did you see? Or maybe it's, hey, they made this point, what do you think that does, and how does that line up with the Bible? And I just started loving that, and that's why I loved your the idea of your book and what you're talking about, is because like we need to be training our kids on how to understand this and process it and filter it through the matrix of the Bible. Otherwise, we're going to leave them unprepared, and they're going to be, having nightmares about Moses or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It is about preparing them to live in this world. And I mean, what we argue in the book is that this is a pop culture world that we're in. This is the world that our neighbors live in. And without participating in sin, we need to be able to understand their world and yet show how the gospel is better than what their world is promising. And so that's basically what we're trying to do, is encourage parents to spend time with their children in these popular culture works so that they may train them to be ambassadors for Christ.
Yep. Amen to that.
Well, Michael Foster has a question for me. Why do you hate white people? Well, that's impossible because, and he says that I'm racist as well. That's impossible because racism doesn't exist. And then let's see what else here. We've got someone wants us to pray for India. We'll definitely do that. We've got the movie Shazam. Does Billy Batson a disservice? This guy's a Shazam fan. He says the movie makes it horrible. Is this accurate? I don't know.
We have all two in one spot.
Yeah.
All two fans.
We got
my co-host of my podcast is like a Shazam fanatic. He's got a podcast called Shazam Cast. I kid you not. He's the man, like an expert. He knows way too much about Shazam.
I don't know why we haven't seen that podcast on the top of the charts. I just can't figure out why.
You'd be surprised how popular it is. It's crazy.
Let me tell you what I do actually know about Shazam. Okay, because I said I don't know anything about it, but that was actually inaccurate. There is. Do you know the Mandela Effect? You know what that is?
Explain it for everybody.
The Mandela Effect is when lots of people remember a fact about the past that's actually not true at all. So, for example, like some people swear, they'll tell you that it's never been the Berenstain Bears, it's the Berenstein Bears. But somehow every book says Berenstain instead of Steen. But everyone remembers it being Steen. So there's like, what's that all about, right? Well, anyway, there's another Mandela Effect about a movie called Shazam that was starring Sinbad, and he was a genie, and he was a genie called Shazam, Sinbad. And that movie, people swear they've seen it. People will tell you details of this movie, and it doesn't exist. So I think that you're lying to me about this Shazam.
You're gaslighting, is it?
You're gaslighting me, man. But yeah, it's a superhero, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you explain to me what?
Wait, it's not Shaquille O'Neal? Have I been thinking of the wrong movie the whole time?
That's Kazam.
Oh,
you're thinking of Kazam. That's with Shaq. He's a genie. But then this is what people say about this, guys. I'm sorry to cut you off, Jared. You were doing just a good job, but this is how this show goes. People will swear that Shazam came out around the same time as Kazam, and it got overshadowed by Kazam, but Shazam was really the better movie. People will tell you this. They're like, they remember this movie Shazam, and it's a similar plot, but it was better, but Kazam, because it had Shaq, did better. But Shazam is a fantasy that never existed.
That is quite funny.
And that's called the Mandela Effect. Now you asked about gaslighting, is that right?
No, I just said it's common.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Gaslighting is when you say something that's intended to make the other person seem crazy. Like let's just say you're in an argument with your wife or something, right? And you speak to her in an angry tone. And then she goes, "Why are you speaking angry to me?" And you say, "What are you talking about? I'm totally calm." Like, and you were speaking in an angry tone, but you're trying to make her feel like she's crazy. That's called gaslighting.
And you like repeat it over and over again until they believe it. Like, oh, no, I've been calm this whole time. You're the crazy one. If you really want to see good examples of this, go to the Gospel Coalition website and just read any article, basically.
Oh, gaslighting. That's what gaslighting is. It's just trying to make someone seem crazy. Like here's a good example. Like a few months ago, rather, a very popular evangelical pastor who I will not name said that there was no such thing as the social justice movement. It was just all a fantasy. People talk about it, but it's really not a thing. That's gaslighting because it's obviously a thing, but he says very straightforward. That doesn't exist. To attempt to make anyone who thinks it does exist seem like a crazy person, that's gaslighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I preached on critical race theory this past Sunday.
Well, that was a fantasy because it doesn't even exist.
How long was that sermon about nothing?
Yeah, it's 40 minutes. But I'm preaching the rest of this month on that subject through Philemon.
Wow. That's a good book to do it through. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But anyway,
Alvin says there's whole Snopes page on it. Snopes
for Mandela Effect.
I'm thinking the for Shazam conspiracy.
Oh, it goes deep. You could look into this, and people will swear, and they have the same details. But by this time, everyone's just reciting what each other says. But there's a lot of things like this, and it's called the Mandela Effect because I think it's because of a detail or Mandela got out of jail or something, but he really didn't. He died in jail, or maybe vice versa. But everyone swears that this thing happened with Nelson Mandela that didn't happen. That's why it's called the Mandela Effect. There's a lot of things just like this, and Berenstein Bears is one of the funniest ones because people they go check their kids' books like, wait a minute, hold on, it is Berenstein, but it's not. It's Berenstein.
Oh my goodness! All right, and so we're getting called out. We're not like Law and Prophets as we ignore the YouTube by Grant over here. Grant, we didn't ignore the YouTube. We see all of the live streams. If anyone from wherever you're listening, you want to type your question, we'll see it all. We see it all. We do not discriminate. We do not show partiality like some CRT advocates do. But we just weren't able to get to your question yet.
Here's one. Maybe he's asking about this one. Jared, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on Christians who vote for libertarians? They're good on small government, but not on abortion. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I like them more than Republicans. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, I think just war theory should inform our votes. And so the person needs to actually have a shot to win before I can justify permitting the other person who's going to be much worse for my neighbor getting in there. And so that should be where the debate is. They got to have a shot to win, because otherwise, just war theory, you think of how many folks are potentially going to die if abortion continues, and how long voting third party is it going to take for someone third party actually to get elected? Let's say 30 years? 20 years? I don't know. But you need to figure that out and realize that there are going to be millions die. And we actually at least have a potential shot to end abortion. I mean, if you get one more Supreme Court justice on there who is pro-life, and, Trump has claimed that he would do that. And so there's at least the potential. I mean, if you lived back during slave times, would you justify voting for the man who says, I'm going to limit man stealing, but it's always going to be legal?
Right.
Yeah. And then you're an abolitionist and you're saying, oh, I'm against slavery, but I'm going to vote for the dude who's in favor of keeping it legal forever. And if that person had been elected, and if you had lived during that time, slavery would have never ended. And it's the same way with abortion. We're going to be on the wrong side of history. One day, I believe it's going to end, and I believe it's going to be my children who do it, and your children. But I hope that they're willing to follow that just war theory and to consider loving their neighbor. And by the way, we've got to, when you're talking about a man's character, you have to include their policies. You can't say, oh, Adolf Hitler is a nice guy, so I'm going to, you got to consider his policy. You're not talking about his character if you're not including the policies that they're favor of.
That's good.
Right.
That's really good.
Listen, Jared, I expected you to give a good answer there. That was better than I expected. So well done.
Oh.
That was fantastic, man.
Although the end abortion now, people are never going to watch the show again. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. But listen. What about this? Matt, I'm taking over the interview. Is that okay?
Do it. Run with it.
But you can go after this. Calvin Friedis, he says this. David French says not to vote for Trump because president doesn't even matter for pro-life. What say you, Jared?
I think a quick Google search will prove French wrong. I mean,
as most things he says.
I like French. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he's flat out wrong on this, in my opinion. He's just totally wrong. I mean, when you watch the Republican National Convention, and that I can't remember the lady's name who used to be the leader of one of the Planned Parenthood clinics, and she starts naming off the things that Trump has done. Not to mention, at the Republican National Convention, he stood up and said that abortion is wrong, and he stood up and said every human being in the womb has a God-given right to life. I mean, that sways people. I mean, it's funny because these same people are saying that his character and the things that he says that are wrong negatively impact the country. Well, what about the things that he says when a president gets up and says that a baby is a baby from conception? How does that impact? Like, the logic needs to be applied on both sides. If you're going to attack his character, you need to also praise when he makes statements like that. And wasn't he the first president that spoke at the
National Right to Life March?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And isn't that crazy that Trump
it is crazy. It's totally crazy. And people will say this and they'll say, yeah, but he's just pandering. You know what I mean? He's just pandering. He's trying to woo evangelicals. He just wants to win. So he'll say anything. And as far as I'm concerned, like, good. It's about time somebody pandered to us a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. Fine. So if he's going to do these things and he's going to work for good just to get elected, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I'm actually encouraged by that because either he means it or we're actually starting to make enough of a fight where he feels like he needs to, because otherwise he wouldn't.
Nobody says, go ahead.
I'm encouraged by the people he puts around him more than I'm encouraged by him.
Even Paula White?
Well, no. No. Why you ask me that? No, I'm not.
Just keeping you honest. Just keeping you honest.
That is discouraging. But a lot of the folks that he puts around him concerning policy are more conservative than he is. Not on everything, but I've just been pleasantly surprised, and I'm optimistic for a second term. Now, I still think his character is shady. I think we need to call him out on his baloney and his his immorality. We need to call it out. But if you factor in just war theory, the dude is against murdering babies. So, I mean, if you weigh out the morality in a scale, I mean, people say one issue voter. No, there's more issues. But, murdering babies is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's not that it's a one issue vote. It's that the understanding of life and protecting life is a foundational issue for all other issues. If you get that one issue wrong, then how am I going to trust you on any of the other issues? And so it's not that we're one issue voters. It's that we're just wise people who understand that if you can't understand that you need to protect life, then what are you going to be thinking about all these other issues?
Right. It's the easiest question on the test, and you get that one wrong. There's no reason to take the rest of the test.
Right. It's like sudden death. Like if you get this one wrong, you're out. You don't get any more chances to win my vote after this.
It's like, we've got a test of 10 questions. 9 of them are calculus. One of them's 2 + 2. You get 2 + 2 wrong. There's no point in the rest of the test. Why would I even listen to you anymore? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to end abortion or not? People say they do, and then they vote for pro-abortion candidates. Literally, you're ensuring that abortion will never end. Right. I mean, this is the most radical on abortion candidates we've ever had.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
up to 9 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And
No, after life, like
and
after
the
they're
thing is-
born, even.
the thing is, you think Trump's pandering to evangelicals? Well, okay, fine, but Joe Biden sure as heck going to pander to the psychopaths that want to kill kids after they're born.
Yeah, such a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and Jared, I love your point. I want to go back to this because I think it's really important for people that are hearing people trying to rationalize voting for Democrats, and they do it based on civility or the tone of Trump or whatever they use, and they're going after the character and say, you just can't vote for the man's character. So we're going to vote for someone whose policies goes for killing babies. And I just love what you said there about how you can't distinguish a man's character from the policies he advocates for. And I think that's so wise, and something that we need to remind people is they're trying to separate those two things out like they're not related, and they very much are. You can't just lift up Joe Biden as this noble, civil person who is a nice guy, but then he's going to let you kill your child.
Right. And the thing is, if Biden's policy was, we're gonna kill every 16-year-old, you know, I mean, folks would freak out, but it's because this out of sight, out of mind, you know, this is stuff that we don't know about until we see the numbers. You know, we don't really see these mothers unless we're going to the abortion clinic and seeing these things. And it's just, it is, I mean, I'm staunchly pro-life, and I staunchly preach that way. And, you know, y'all asked me the question. Most folks don't ask me, but I am passionate about what I believe and why I believe it. And I'm going to do my best, because we're going to, you know, the folks listening to this, whichever way you vote, or if you choose not to vote, you're going to have to stand before God and give an account for that. So you don't really have to defend it to me, but you better be ready to defend it to him. And so that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep reminding people too, Romans 1 really makes it difficult to vote for baby murderers, because it goes down the list of the godless things and why God's rejecting his society and giving people over to their passion. And then at the very end of that chapter 1, it says, and those who do them and approve of those that do them. And I don't know what's more approving than giving a vote to the party that is endorsing murder, endorsing pedophilia, endorsing all of these different things. Like, I'm not saying you have to vote Republican. I'm not saying that you need to vote Republican or you're sitting, but you're definitely sitting if you vote Democrat. Don't vote if you feel like you can't vote for your conscience or whatever. But it's definitely something that you need to be praying about if you're thinking at all to be voting for Democrat.
I think that, I mean, I understand the third party vote more than I do the Democrat vote, for sure. You know, it's folks, you know, I don't know. They'll have to explain it, because I don't understand. But you know, y'all need to bring a Democrat on here and talk to him.
Do you think a Democrat would come on the show?
I think so. I think you could find somebody.
You think so? Oh, you let me know after this sometime, and then we'll try to get him on. But we have just a hard time getting rhino Christians on our show. I mean, we try to get people that pretend to be Republicans that are really Democrats won't even come on. So.
I don't even consider myself a Republican. It's just, you know, with just war theory, I feel like there's two choices. You know, folks can say they're 15, but you know, one of those two are going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, AD doesn't even vote. Or wait, are you going to vote now?
I'm planning on it.
Wow. AD just doesn't vote, and now he's doing it.
That's right.
You know a landslide's happening when that happens.
That's right. Yeah, I have to register, actually. Now, good reminder.
All right, so I want... Go ahead.
Register.
Or just mail in the vote. Apparently, you can just mail in.
I'm going to register like 7 times, man.
Yeah, and if you forget, just go to your neighbor's mailbox and grab theirs and just fill it out and send it in. Oh, my goodness. So stuff in the news. Let's go through some of the new stuff. We got, man, almost 30 minutes in on already, and we haven't even touched the news yet.
Hey, man,
so another conversation by the ERLC that's really paid off. The judge bars Defiant Los Angeles megachurch from holding indoor service, and they're talking about John MacArthur's church. I don't know if Jared, you heard about this.
It's over.
It's over.
The judge has spoken.
Jared, I don't know if you heard about this, but we follow ERLC pretty closly. And we did hear finally a statement from them regarding this whole issue. And I think it was an intern, was it AD? Or it was somebody that was
I don't know.
Under Russell Moore. But they left and you tweeted that it was a really great conversation they had with the LA council members. And literally like the next hour, it came out that they slapped them with an injunction and told them that they need to shut down their church. So I don't know. I've been really hoping the ERLC is starting to get more engaged with politics. I'm starting to wonder maybe we shouldn't, because if this is the result.
Listen. Yeah, that was no intern. That was Dr. Moore's right-hand guy.
No, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do love Daryl Harrison, excuse me, said, nope, this is not the beginning. It's not even close. Or this is not the end. It's not even close. This isn't over. And man, isn't it refreshing to see a church actually, go to bat for the foundational principles of our Christian faith?
Yeah, I think the default setting, and this is something that's lost on Christianity today, is the default setting is the command of God, right? So if God commands us to be together, you know the people who got to defend why they're doing it. It's the people who aren't doing it. It's not the people meeting that have to defend why they're meeting. We got the command. It's like evangelism. Go into all the world, baptize the repentant, teach them all that I've commanded you. I don't have to get anybody's permission to do that. What I've got to do is defend. If I'm not doing that, I've got to defend. I'm the one who's going to stand before God and give an account for why I didn't do it, not the people who are out there doing it.
Right. That's a very good point, because we kind of, at least myself, I'll say that I've kind of been the one defending, but it's like, you're absolutely right. That shouldn't be the posture at all. It's like, no, we're doing this. You're the one who has to make the case, not me.
Right. I mean, if God said, "Don't stand on your head," then it's the people who refuse to do it that are the ones who are going to have to give a reason. Like, there are exceptions, but the people who have to defend it are the ones who are arguing the exception, not the one arguing the rule.
Yeah, that's so good. Man, I didn't realize that we were the squish on this issue, AD.
We're the squish ones. Yeah.
We're the squish ones on this.
Hey, listen, I'll own it.
I told you your reputation's ruined, man. It's ruined.
That's good. So we need to be praying for them. I mean, their fines are like racking up. I don't know what their number is. It's got to be in the $100,000 by at this point. They're getting fined every time they're open. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this.
I hate that. I'm thankful for their stand. Even if I don't agree with everything, right? I can still praise the Lord that someone is standing up. It's like the open air preacher, and some of the approaches they use. Man, I'm just glad they're out there preaching. Yeah.
That's true.
Even though I disagree with some of the way they do it, I can praise the Lord, and I feel that way about MacArthur and his church as well. That I'm glad there's someone out there doing it, even though I may do it differently if I was in the same situation. Man, I can praise the Lord for him.
Yeah, absolutely, and understanding just the overall picture of this whole thing, and not just undercutting people just because you don't agree with every single thing, but understanding that, hey, this is actually a strategic battle that's happening, and we need to support it and not undercut it like so many have.
Well, it's a great point. And I think another, this is a very common thing where it's like, well, I can quibble with their tone or their approach or their strategies to get people to listen or whatever. It's just, you're right. It's very common in street evangelism. It's very common in social media and stuff like that. And it's like, could I be wrong about some of my approaches? Absolutely. But I'm going to do something here. You know what I mean? And if you can show me how you're doing it better, we can have that conversation. I'm not not going to do that. But like so often, a lot of these criticisms comes from people who don't do it. They just don't do it at all. And it's like, and that's just anecdotal, obviously. But I know that anyone who's ever done street preaching before has encountered this, where it's like, it's not right. It's like, when's the last time you did it? Never.
Yeah. It's something that I've been learning over the last couple of years is the importance of like-mindedness and what that actually means. I find myself being able to fight shoulder to shoulder with people that are like-minded. We have the same heart. We're passionately pursuing Christ, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we agree on all the issues. I mean, AD and myself are a great example of this. He's post-mill, I'm pre-mill, he's reformed, I'm whatever squish I am. But there's so much that we're like-minded about where we can ally, come together, and we have this Christian brotherly relationship. It's not about agreeing on every single thing or we're not going to fellowship with each other, but it's that we have the values and foundations in common. And so that we're able to ally and be effective and be used together and all of those things. And I think that's important to find more than necessarily agreeing on everything together.
Amen. Amen.
All right, so this is another story that was super troubling to me, and I'm reading this and thinking through this from the sphere sovereignty perspective of we have the government sphere, we have the family sphere, and we have the church sphere. The 12-year-old got suspended after a teacher spots toy gun during one of the virtual classes they're having. So public schools, a lot of them are having virtual classes where the teachers, they basically have an online Zoom meeting or whatnot. In his bedroom had a toy gun, and the teacher, and not just the teacher, I guess the principal, because the teacher doesn't suspend anyone, right? I mean, a principal would do that. The school suspended him for what he had in his bedroom. And it was just really disturbing to me. I don't know if it hit you guys, if you guys saw this article or read it or not, but it's like, how much more business is the government going to reach into our lives and start telling families what their kids can and can't have in their own bedrooms? Is that kind of disturbing to you guys? Yes, yeah. That's it. Okay, moving right along.
Yeah, I mean, what if the dude had some X-rated thing in the background, or, I don't understand the outrage over the toy gun. But I mean, there is a line, right? There are things that could be on the screen that the kid would be accountable for.
Okay.
Even though it's in his bedroom, because it's kind of a virtual classroom to where your bedroom kind of, it's no longer just your bedroom. I mean, if the kid was sitting there with no clothes on, that'd be a problem too.
Yes, definitely would be. But it's an interesting conversation because, like, what if it was even a real gun? Like, what is it their business? Like, I understand the nudity thing. I understand the proprietary thing, and like propriety. That's right. Not proprietary. Like it's my private thing. But like you have a Second Amendment. So what is it to the school, even if he has a real gun in his background? Like, who are you to say those kinds of things? I don't know. It hit me really wrong.
Here's what I say.
More of a government overreach.
Here's what I say about stuff like this. Like this makes me think of mandatory vaccines for school students, right? Mm-hmm. Listen, if you're gonna go to their house, which is if you're gonna take the education that they're willing to provide, you got to play by their stupid, idiotic rules. So it's very difficult to really complain. It's stupid. I think it's absolutely dumb that you can't have a toy gun in the background of your own room when you're on virtual school. Mm-hmm. I think it's stupid. I think we all kind of think it's silly. But listen, if this is the route you've chosen, you play stupid games, you're gonna have to win stupid prizes sometimes. You know what I mean?
Gosh, I love that. It's so good. Yes. If you play stupid games, don't expect to get stupid prizes.
Right. I mean, if they want you to, I mean, you can complain all you want, but it's just really not much you can do about it. I mean, they want you to take the vaccines, well, you're going to take the vaccine. They want to teach you about, how America is the worst country in the history of the world. Then that's what they're going to teach them. I mean, it's just, you can complain if you want to, but the real solution is to get the heck out.
Yeah. Jared, what's your position on public schools? Do you advise people to send their kids there?
I encourage, each family to do what they think is right, really. But ideally, it would be a Christian education. I think basically I would encourage more parents and more Christians to go into public schools for teaching, but more students to be outside of public schools for education. Because all education is discipleship, and I've got my kids in a classical Christian school, and the reason is because now our local teachers, right? I mean, most of the teachers in our schools across our county are Christians. But it's the system that's the problem. It's the worldview that's the problem. It's teaching God's subjects without God, and which is a form of secular humanism or atheism, and not to mention the LGBT stuff that's being pressured and put on teachers to permit and teach. And you've got students that are identifying contrary to their biological gender, and then the teachers actually have to call them by a new name that is whatever sex they've identified as. And so all that stuff, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds shouldn't be dealing with that. And so I hope to disciple my kids. But there are situations where parents, for whatever reason, don't have a choice in the matter. They don't think they have a choice, or there's health problems. There's all kinds of issues. Well, we actually homeschooled, and my wife, her health got to where she just couldn't continue homeschooling, and so we put them in the private Christian school, the classical Christian school. And so there are reasons, but when children return home, we got to realize that they've been taught a worldview that's contrary to the Bible. And so parents have to re-educate and re-disciple their children. And so if you're going to have to re-disciple them, why not just do it right the first time? And so if you're going to spend an hour and a half discipling them, I believe in Tennessee, I believe the school system requires 4 hours a day, if I'm not mistaken. And so 2.5 more hours and you've homeschooled them according to the standard that's on over you. So why not just do that instead of, and so, but I don't want to just make an automatic, do not do this, though I would recommend against it and encourage them to invest in private Christian. Actually, I would encourage homeschool first. And that's where I differ from some of my brothers in Christ. I mean, that's how it was done forever, right? I mean, but anyway, sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all. I think at least for me, I would discourage public school at least. Like that is the last thing you should do. And maybe I'm more of a radical guy on this.
Well, let me ask you this. So if there's a choice, Jared, if there is a choice, so let's just, for the sake of argument, say it's not something about health, it's not money, it's not, they just are choosing to put their kids in public school. Given what you've just said about how all education is discipleship, why wouldn't you just go all the way and say, I'm not going to encourage you to do what the right thing. I'm going to tell you what the right thing is. Public school is discipling into a pagan worldview. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I would tell. I mean, if someone asked me that, I would definitely tell them that. Encourage them to.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I would encourage them. I would encourage them to put them in private school or homeschool. That is ideal in my opinion. And I was in the public school system, and so
yeah,
I live that world, and I don't want my children to be in that. I want them to. And again, it's really not a statement against the teachers or even the administration. I think teachers need to view themselves as missionaries in a pagan system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, so it sounds like we land in the same place, because I would agree there are exceptions. I just think that there's very few of them, but we can disagree on the number of exceptions there are, because, there's always, because I don't want to make the decision for someone else that you're like, let's just say someone's ill and, people are different. So someone might be able to put up with it and think it's so important that even if they're sick, they're going to do it. And someone else might have a lower tolerance for that. So I'm not going to make everyone's rules for them. But, barring some kind of unforeseen circumstance like that, I'm going to say there's really no reason to do it.
Yeah, I actually had someone reach out to me about this, and they were very unsure about it because they didn't want to send their kids to public school, but a single mother had to work. So whatever the reasons led to that, could be a number of things, but single mother might had a chance to go to private school, but they were requiring the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, when it comes out, that they would have to take it. Yeah, the one that's in the future. So, and she was going to have to sign an affidavit that she would swear to give it to the kid, or public school. Those are like the weird scenarios where it's like, okay, I would give an allowance to, but just like the normal way that life goes. You get married, you have a family, you're not divorced, you've made good financial decisions. Public school should probably be the last thing on your mind. But even though private school, I'll say this too, is I think that parents are too lax with just not checking and being engaged with what's being taught at private school. Just because it's private school doesn't mean that critical race theory isn't being taught there, or some other, kind of squished VeggieTales thing like we talked about earlier is being taught there, right?
Yeah,
so like even if you're
I gotta look into this.
Poor Phil. Even if it's private school, you still need to own the education of your kids and the discipleship of your kids where you're checking on that stuff. I think that's very important.
Cool, man.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about, because this is really interesting. And this is another I told you so bias, where this is for it's just a face mask crowd. John Delaney, who is one of those third-party candidates running for president. So he's got the blue check mark. He's official. It's got a bunch of retweets, got a bunch of likes. Says this: if you are telling people not to trust the COVID vaccine when it is approved for public use, you're basically the same as people who say don't wear a mask. And so what he is saying is, if you don't get the vaccine when it comes out, forget that it was rushed, forget that we don't know long-term effects, forget all those kinds of things. You're basically as nutty as someone who doesn't say don't wear a mask.
Well, I love this because it kind of reminds me of the whole thing you just said about the signing an affidavit that I'll get the COVID vaccine when it comes out. Like, who would ever in their right conscience be able to do that other than just to shut you up? Because like, it's not even developed. We have like, there could be a side effects list the mile long. Like, who could just sign a blanket? Like, yeah, just get it. We don't just get it. It's not developed yet, but just you're gonna get it. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, we don't even know anything about it. We don't even know if it's possible. Like, I love that kind of stuff. It reminds me of I don't know if you know this, Jared, but your alma mater, Southern Seminary, had their students sign a document that said that they would comply with every government mandate about public health and safety. It's like there was no limit. It was not like
there's no end date.
There was no end date to it. It's just like every mandate, I'm gonna sign my life away. Who could possibly sign such a thing?
Did you see that, Jared?
I saw. I was gone as a student by the time that came out, but I saw it briefly, but I didn't look into it enough. I don't really know.
The vaccine kind of stuff reminds me of that too. It's just like people are already telling you just have to, when we absolutely know nothing about it at all.
Well, I'll tell you this: I've got two sisters who are registered nurses, and with vaccines, they say you wait till the second or third trial or whatever. You don't do not take the first one. They always say that.
Shoot, I do that with cars too. I never take the first model that gets rolled out for the same reasons.
For real.
I do. Listen, we all at the grocery store, we always take the item behind the item in the front because we know that one's all messed up.
Yep, that's right. That's right. You're 100% right on that.
No, but it's so silly. That's what I'm saying. Like, people are already telling you just have to get it. It's like, no, I'm not getting this rush job vaccine that I don't know anything about, and neither do you because it doesn't exist yet. No.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. Okay, Jared.
These days you can't even wait. You just have to comply.
Yeah, I know.
Before anything even happens, before we know anything, just comply. Isn't that our culture?
Instant reaction, or you're a racist.
Right. The next police shooting comes out, and you're just like, I don't like police brutality, and I'm black, but it's like, can we just wait like maybe a day to see just to see? Like, no, Uncle Tom, what are you? Everything you just have to have an instant response to, otherwise you're the worst person in the world. That's crazy, man.
And I would hate to be a pastor in this rapid response time. That'd be tough.
Look at Jared.
It is.
He's starting to get real quiet and probably regretting being on the show right about now.
Man, you're walking on eggshells all the time, because you don't. It's one thing if you offend folks with the word. It's another thing if a stupid take offends somebody. Like it's just not something that's worth it's not worth getting my opinion out there to unnecessarily offend folks, as far as preaching.
That's very wise.
But it's wise, but it sometimes you get away from your notes when you're preaching, you know.
Oh yeah,
So you end
we've
up
both done it.
everything's recorded now too. You know, it's all online now because of COVID. So
David says you got to vote for the bill to find out what's in it.
Or you're a racist.
Find out.
Hey, Jared, we have someone who's going to be moving to Tennessee. Wants to know where your church is. What city is
it's
it
in Crossville, Tennessee. It's right in between Nashville and Knoxville.
And what's it called?
It is called Cumberland Homesteads Baptist Church.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we can find you on Twitter. I know that because I'm looking at your profile right now. Jared H. Moore, just like Russell Moore, but not related whatsoever. Don't hold it against him. Jared H. Moore. And he has a book coming out, The Pop Culture Parent. Check it out. Where can you find the book? Where can you pick it up?
You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on christianbook.com. You can find it on New Growth Press. I mean, it's really everywhere. Everywhere. You can find it on Walmart if you go online.
Now you're just bragging. So give him a follow, pick up the book. Really a great topic about how to train your kids and help them engage with culture. Really great book. Love it. Jared, thank you for coming on and risking your reputation and damaging ours at the same time.
Amen. Yeah. Hey guys, thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Take care.